My name is Dennis Walker. I'm the founder of Mycopreneur, which is a platform that is dedicated to mushroom entrepreneurs around the world. And as an extension of that, I do a lot of satire and social commentary. I think we live in a very polarizing, serious timeline right now, and people are craving humor. They're craving intelligent analysis of current events with a humorous lens. And I really try to embody that with the content that I do my due diligence about what's happening in the psychedelic space and the world at large, and then tie it together and put a little bow on top with satire, which I see as a Trojan horse for discussing very important, critical issues that are not easy to approach with a more linear, serious lens. I think we're headed towards a more robust ecosystem with psychedelics and with mental health, et cetera, where there are many different positions that people can play. So that's what I observe here. There's the underground artists where you've got collectives like Moksha Gallery, you've got my girl Stella who's killing it with her art. And then you have people who are more overtly focused on the bottom line, on fundraising, on capital markets. And I think it's wonderful to have all of us together in the same room. It's one of my favorite things about Wonderland is that they're willing to platform many different perspectives. And that's what it's going to take for psychedelics to really penetrate the mainstream is we're going to have a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different stakeholders working together towards the common goal of advancing the conversation around the legitimization of psychedelics. I became very interested in psychedelics when I was 16 or 17 years old through cannabis first, but in an unregulated economy, the people who have cannabis also tend to have mushrooms and MDMA and so on and so forth. And I gravitated towards that crowd. And in particular, I found mushrooms to be very interesting. I started reading about them. I started pouring through Arrowwood forums, which was the primary platform available to me at the time. Started reading Terence McKenna, had my own mushroom experience, had the roof blown off my imagination, is how I phrase it. And then I went to school in San Francisco, which is a very psychedelic forward culture. And I got connected to some very successful Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that were involved with VR in the 80s, connected to Timothy Leary and to the Mondo 2000 crowd, which was, going back a number of years. And I started learning that there are very serious, very successful people who utilize psychedelics as tools. And I got to really have a baptism by fire in that regard. And then, of course, being a part of the musical and artistic community, psychedelics were omnipresent. You look at the musical legacy of lots of different artists in the Bay, like Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane. And now what I'm doing is really an extension of that. It's just that I've matured a little bit. I've had a cycle of 15, 16 years where I've been able to learn through personal experience, study what's been happening out there in the world, and all of a sudden the conversation pivoted to what I'm comfortable talking about, which is psychedelics and how we can advance this crazy world that we live in a sensible, meaningful way. I think it's so important what you do with a psychedelic experience. If a tree falls in the wood and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? It's the same principle. Like if you have a psychedelic experience and you can't put that into action and share it with your community, did you actually have a psychedelic experience? And I believe there's a analogy about fishing where when you go into an altered state, you have a psychedelic experience, you're going to get some insights generally. What do you do with those insights? So I think that's where the conversation needs to go next and not see psychedelics as being this one-stop shop where we just keep coming back to psychedelics. More of can we access this altered state of consciousness and can we use the insights from that to create a better world? That's ambiguous depending on who you ask what a better world is. But for me, a better world looks like something that is more intuitive, more aligned, not so polarized, better communication, and hopefully technology that benefits the collective rather than a very small subsection of the collective. When you're just starting out with psychedelics, start low and go slow. I think that's critical and paramount. There's all kinds of misinformation floating around about who should be doing what and at what dose. And it's not a competition. Just because somebody's interested in macrodosing doesn't mean you need to jump into the macrodose right away. Just because people are interested in microdosing doesn't mean that's the only legitimate way to start a relationship with psychedelics. So start low and go slow and be super intentional. And in that regard, I mean, when you have an experience, you probably don't want to follow that up with another experience right on the heels of it. I think you want to build in some time. And that's something that's worked very well for me, is that you have a psychedelic experience, take a little while to process it, take a couple of weeks. I'm concerned when people normalize doing 5 ceremonies in a week and then 7 ceremonies. And, don't let anyone tell you what to do, but be smart and go be skeptical and have fun. That's the other thing. I think we need to inject more humor and levity into the conversation at large around psychedelics, but also around what it means to be a human, and having a sense of humor, being able to not take things so seriously and not take yourself so seriously. That's actually a really, really powerful tool for mental health. I think one of the greatest biohacks we have available to us that has physiological and psychological benefits immediately is the ability to laugh, to find humor in situations, and to extend other people the benefit of the doubt. I think it's really important not to jump to conclusions about if somebody's doing something wrong or this, that, or the other. Focus on yourself, build a personal relationship with psychedelics and really own that and embody it and be an authentic, cool person with a sense of humor. If you Google mycopreneur, mycopreneur, anything attached to that will lead to me. I do a lot of satire on Instagram and TikTok, and I also have a .com, mycopreneur.com. I write for a number of different platforms in the psychedelic space and beyond. So 2024 for me is going to be about extending that and saturating the media ecosystem with positivity, good information, good interviews with experts, and balanced narratives that take into account many different stakeholders, not just the money people, not just the underground, but a connection between the two of them, hopefully.